In a dog's final days, many owners notice small behavior changes that feel deeply unsettling. A dog, who once followed them everywhere, may begin hiding, sleeping alone, avoiding eye contact, or withdrawing from touch. It is easy to interpret that as emotional distance, but very often it is something much more physical and instinctive. Veterinary guidance notes that dogs tend to hide pain and that withdrawal reluctance to interact, and unusual changes in behavior can be important signs of discomfort or decline, not rejection. VCA, and that is where a gentler perspective can help. Dogs likely do not understand death as an abstract idea in the human philosophical sense. Comparative thanatology research suggests that forming a full concept of death is cognitively demanding and may be rare outside humans. But that does not mean dogs are unaware that something major is happening. They can sense change in the body: weakness, altered routine, rising pain, strange fatigue, and the emotional state of the people around them. So in their final days, they may not be thinking, "I am dying," the way a person might. More likely, they are living inside immediate sensations: tiredness, discomfort, the need for quiet, and the search for safety. PMC. That idea can be strangely comforting, because it shifts the focus away from existential fear and back toward what dogs understand best: scent, touch, tone, and presence. A soft blanket, a familiar room, your voice, your hand nearby. These things matter because they help the dog's nervous system stay anchored in something known. End-of-life care providers specifically encourage families to stay close, speak gently, and comfort their dog through touch and presence when the time comes. lapoflove.com. So if your dog begins isolating, hiding, or seeming unlike themselves, let that be a signal to call your veterinarian, and also a reminder not to take the change personally. Very often your dog is not pulling away from love. They are simply moving toward the quietest way they know to carry what their body is going through. And in that moment, the kindest thing you can offer is not panic. It is calm, comfort, and staying close. VCA, here's the truth many dog owners feel in their heart, long before they can explain it with words. For a dog, emotional safety is not a luxury. It is a biological need. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to the emotional state of the people they live with. They may not understand the reason behind our stress, but they absolutely feel the rhythm of it in our voice, our breathing, our tension, our movements, and the atmosphere of the home itself. That is why a calm owner does more than create a peaceful room. A calm owner becomes a kind of emotional shelter. When you lower your voice, move gently, and stay steady during difficult moments, your dog's body often softens with you. In that sense, your calm is not just a mood. It is protection. And every dog needs one place where that protection is guaranteed. A crate, a bed in the corner, a quiet mat near the wall. Whatever form it takes, a dog needs a space that truly belongs to them. A place where no one reaches in, disturbs them, or demands interaction when they are overwhelmed. From an evolutionary point of view, this matters deeply. Animals recover from stress by retreating to safety. So when you respect that space, you are not being distant. You are telling your dog there is one place in this world where you never have to explain yourself, defend yourself, or stay alert. That same principle becomes even more important during life's hardest moments: thunderstorms, fireworks, vet visits, illness, and old age. In those moments, your dog does not need perfect words. They need presence. They need the familiar person whose scent, voice, and calm body still mean home. And maybe that is the most sacred act of love of all: staying. Staying when they are afraid. Staying when they are weak. Staying when the body begins to fail. And if the time ever comes, staying beside them in their final moments so they do not have to leave this world confused, alone, or searching for you. Because real love in a dog's language is not loud. It is steady, safe, unshakable. If this message touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this video. with someone who truly loves their dog. And in the comments, tell me what is one thing you do that helps your dog feel safest with you. When a dog is nearing the end of life, one of the hardest things for an owner to witness is the sudden change in behavior. A dog who once followed you everywhere may start hiding, eating less, avoiding touch, or choosing to be alone. From a human point of view, that can feel like emotional distance. But very often it is not rejection at all. Veterinary guidance notes that dogs instinctively hide pain and weakness as a survival mechanism. And end-of-life care providers also report that many dogs may isolate themselves simply because they are tired, uncomfortable, or seeking quiet. In other words, this behavior is often more biological than personal. VCA. That shift makes sense when you look at dogs through an evolutionary lens. In the wild, showing weakness could draw danger. So instead of expressing distress the way humans do, dogs often become still, silent, and withdrawn. It is less about giving up emotionally and more about conserving energy. The body narrows its focus. Appetite drops. Social effort drops. Movement drops. What looks like emotional shutdown may actually be the body directing every available resource toward coping with illness. VCA. But there is an important distinction owners should know. A dog quietly pulling away may be following instinct. A dog who becomes suddenly clingy, restless, and panting while unable to settle may be showing something else: uncontrolled pain or severe discomfort. VCA specifically lists excessive panting at rest, restlessness, vacant staring, and withdrawal from normal interaction among important pain signs in dogs. So, if your dog seems unusually attached, but also uneasy in their body, that is not just needing comfort. It may be a medical signal that they need help right away. VCA. Maybe the gentlest truth is this: when your dog withdraws in those final days, they are usually not moving away from your love. They are moving deeper into instinct. And your role is not to force interaction, but to stay soft, observant, and close enough to be found when they need you. If this message spoke to your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who is loving an aging dog right now. Sometimes, in the final chapter of a dog's life, something happens that feels almost impossible to explain. A dog who has been weak, withdrawn, or barely interested in food suddenly seems brighter. They may wag again, eat a little, ask to go outside, or look at you with a spark that feels almost like their old self. Many families describe this as a last rally, and that moment can be both beautiful and heartbreaking, because the human heart wants to believe it means recovery. But very often it does not. End-of-life decline is rarely perfectly straight or predictable. Even hospice providers note that families often face a mixture of good days and bad, with changes that can be subtle or dramatic from one moment to the next. Lap of love. Science does offer one small piece of context, though it does not fully explain this phenomenon in dogs. In a well-known University of Michigan rat study, researchers observed a brief surge of highly organized brain activity after cardiac arrest, including increased high-frequency coherence. Later reviews have discussed similar near-death bursts of brain activity as a real scientific question. But that is very different from proving that a dog is consciously choosing a final goodbye. PNAs.org. So maybe the gentlest way to understand a last rally is this: sometimes the body gathers itself one more time. Not to promise healing, but to offer a brief window of clarity, connection, or presence before letting go. And if that moment comes, you do not need to solve it. You do not need to analyze it perfectly. You only need to be there. To offer the soft voice they know, the familiar hand, the quiet room, the feeling of home. Because whether that last bright moment is biological, neurological, or simply part of a body's final rhythm, what your dog will feel most clearly is not theory. It will be you. In the end, loving a dog is not really about spending more. It is about understanding more. A dog does not measure love by the price of the bed, the brand of the food, or how many treats they get in a day. Dogs read life through biology, through scent, through tone, through routine, through whether the nervous system feels safe in your presence. That is why real connection begins the moment we stop asking, "What would feel loving to me?" and start asking, "What actually helps my dog feel secure, understood, and at peace?" And that shift changes everything. Because dogs do not need a human parent who overwhelms them with emotion. They need a calm, dependable guide. Someone steady. Someone patient. Someone who does not lead with chaos but with clarity. Not a harsh pack leader built on fear or control, but a strong, grounded presence their instincts can trust. In the natural language of dogs, safety is love. Predictability is love. Respect for space is love. Quiet leadership is love. That means sometimes the most meaningful thing you can give your dog is not more affection, but better timing. Not more excitement, but more calm. Not more control, but more understanding. When you respect a dog's instincts, instead of fighting them, they soften. They trust more deeply. They stop surviving your world and start relaxing inside it. And maybe that is the true goal of loving a dog, not turning them into a little human, but learning how to meet them as a dog. If this message spoke to your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who truly loves their dog. And in the comments, tell me what is one thing you changed once you started seeing your dog through their instincts instead of your own emotions. One of the hardest fears any dog owner carries is this: will my dog be afraid? At the end, will they know what is happening? Will they suffer? And that is why understanding euthanasia matters so much. Not just medically, but emotionally. When euthanasia is done properly, it is not a violent event. It is a gentle medical process designed to first bring deep relaxation and loss of awareness, and then allow the body to let go. What can be confusing for families is that after consciousness is gone, there may still be small movements, a final breath, or muscle reactions. Those moments can look upsetting if you are not prepared for them. But they are not signs that the dog is still in there or struggling. They are physical reflexes from a body that is shutting down, not evidence of fear or suffering. That distinction matters because it can spare people so much guilt. And then there is the part that matters most to the dog who is there. Dogs may not understand death the way humans do, but they understand scent, voice, touch, and emotional safety. They know the smell of the person they love. They know the tone that has guided them through storms, pain, joy, and ordinary days. So in those final conscious moments, what likely matters most is not the clinic room or the medical equipment. It is the familiar human presence that still means you are safe. That is why staying matters so deeply. Your voice can still be home. Your hand can still be reassurance. Your scent can still be peace. So if that day ever comes, try to remember this: being there is not a small thing. It may be the kindest gift you ever give your dog. Not because you can stop the goodbye, but because you can make sure the last thing they feel is not abandonment. It is love. Losing a dog can feel strangely invisible to the outside world. People may say, "It was just a pet," even when your nervous system knows that is not true. Research on pet bereavement repeatedly describes this as disenfranchised grief. Grief that is real, deep, and life-changing, but often minimized or poorly understood by others. And that matters because when grief is not recognized, people often hide it instead of getting support. Newer research even suggests that a meaningful minority of bereaved owners can meet the threshold for prolonged grief disorder after pet loss, with one recent study reporting a conditional rate of 7.5% following the death of a pet. Close. And maybe that should not surprise us as much as it does, because the bond with a dog is not just emotional in a poetic sense. It is biological. In an fMRI study involving mothers, researchers found overlapping brain networks related to emotion-reward affiliation, visual processing, and social cognition when the mothers viewed images of their own child and their own dog. In other words, the brain was not treating that dog like a casual hobby. It was responding through systems tied to attachment and care. Plus, that bond also shows up in the body. Studies have found long-term stress synchronization between dogs and their owners, and newer reporting on shared physiology has described matching patterns in heart rate variability during interaction. So when a dog becomes your daily comfort, your routine, your source of calm, that relationship is not just in your head. It becomes woven into your biology. PMC. So, if you are grieving a dog, please hear this clearly. Your pain is not excessive. It is proportionate to the bond. It is the biologically accurate cost of having been someone's whole world and letting them become part of yours. If this message spoke to your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who has loved a dog deeply. And if you feel ready, tell me your dog's name in the comments. Sometimes saying their name out loud is its own kind of love.